week's Ask Schellie show. Welcome, 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 welcome. My name is Schellie Fan. I am your emotional intelligence expert. I'm a licensed psychotherapist here in the beautiful state of Florida, where I have the privilege of specializing in intimacy and relationship wellness. And so every week I have the opportunity to share a question asked by one of you amazing listeners so that we can add tools to the toolboxes of others. Yes? So welcome. If you're tuning in, you are part of my consultation team. Make sure you go into the comment section and let me know who you are and where you are tuning in from. Again, you are tuning into the Ask Schellie show. I am your host, Schellie Fan, proud Haitian American, licensed psychotherapist here in Florida. I am the CEO and owner of Ask Schellie Consulting, where we work with couples, married couples, exclusively dating partnerships, and giving them the tools to survive, giving them the tools to truly reap the benefits of being in a healthy relationship. And so every Tuesday, we have an opportunity to share a question that's asked by one of our community members, our community citizens, in all things wellness, relationships, emotional issues, you name it. Today, we have a woman writing in that says, I am always in love. Please help me, literally, is what her question was. And we're going to be going into that in just a second. I need your feedback. Our listeners and those who write in always say that they find the comments literally in the comment section of each live super, super helpful. So make sure you share your thoughts. You are part of the expert team here on the Ask Schellie show. We are going to help a woman today who wants to break the pattern of falling in love over and over and over again. And we are actually going to talk about an emotional condition that explains where this comes from. But first, make sure you go into the comment section and let me know who you are and where you are tuning in from. Hello, Joseph from Florida. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you who want to join me up here on stage, you can join me. You could keep your cameras off. You don't have to use your real name, and you could provide your feedback live right here on stage with me. You can also keep your camera on if you like as well. But if you want the world to hear your feedback, they can also see it if you put it in the comment section. All you have to do is let me know. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and put the link into the comments. And all you have to do is click on that link and you will be able to join me live here on stage to provide your clean and appropriate feedback. Hello. Your clean and appropriate feedback. So again, you're tuning into the Ask Schellie show. I'm going to go ahead and get into the question here. Again, those of you who are tuning in, make sure you let me know who you are, where you are tuning in from, and do not forget that your feedback is valuable. We want to hear from you. So here we go. Let's go into the question of the day. And it reads, Dear Ask Schellie, I feel so broken and helpless. It is as if I have an incurable disease that repels men. My friends tell me that I fall in love way too quickly and that I will always end up hurt. They tell me that I scare off men with being so needy and loving before they even have the chance to earn my love. I did not believe it until now, and I want to change that. Very good for you. I don't believe I have self-esteem issues or anything like that. I just never had the desire to casually date. What can I do to break this pattern? I fall in love so quickly. Please help me. All right. And so I'm going to consult with my team members. Let me know what you think. She wants to break the pattern. How can she break this pattern? She is tired of falling in love. She says she falls in love too quickly. Her friends tell her you fall in love too quickly, way too fast, way before the man has even earned your love. She wants to know, how can she break the pattern? Hello, Gina, sister mama. Right back at you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ask Schellie show. show. We want to help this woman who has written in to say, I am always in love, always falling in love. I want to break the pattern. My friends say that I send men running in the other direction. She wants to break that pattern. What do you guys think? Do you know anybody that always seems to be in love, or someone that falls in love, in your opinion, entirely too quickly? Guess what? There is a condition that explains where this comes from. And so I cannot wait for us to get into it. I'm going to reread the question, give you guys an opportunity to get your thoughts together. Make sure you're going into the comment section and sharing your viewpoint. She wants to break the pattern. How can I break this pattern? I no longer want to be in relationship after relationship after relationship, searching for love. All right, so let me repeat the question and go into our feedback, which is for entertainment and informational purposes only. For those of you who watch the show and something triggers this idea, this belief system, this feeling, this desire to go a little bit deeper, right? That means really looking into the root of what you may be going through. That is therapy. That is a process that includes a consent for you to engage in a life altering process. You can change the trajectory of your life through therapy. This show is not intended to replace that process. However, you are highly encouraged to consider it. I think even those who may not have any identifying main issues can benefit from tune-ups, whether it's a weekly tune-up, a bi-weekly tune-up, a monthly tune-up with a therapist, a safe space where you can be completely vulnerable and assure that you have opportunity to access the greatest version of yourself. And therapy will give you that. So again, this show is not therapy, but we are wanting to provide information, possibly new information for some, and that you have that gives our listeners the opportunity to add tools to their wellness toolbox. This is what it's about. Emotional intelligence is about having a toolbox that is overflowing. And hopefully this show provides that on a weekly basis. And you contribute to that with your feedback. So make sure you go into the comment section. Here is the question. Dear Ask Schellie, I feel so broken and helpless. It is as if I have an incurable disease that repels men. My friends tell me that I fall in love way too quickly and that I will always end up hurt. They tell me that I scare off men with being so needy and loving before they even have the chance to earn my love. I did not believe it until now, and I want to change that. I don't believe I have self-esteem issues or anything like that. I just never had the desire to casually date. What can I do to break this pattern? I fall in love so quickly. Please help me. And so this is what we are here for. Yes. Hello, Beverly. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. So here we go. We are talking about a woman who believes that she is stuck in a pattern, right? And so her friends are telling her that you fall in love way too quickly. You do not give men the opportunity to earn your love. And this is an issue. And she's getting to a place in her life where she's actually realizing it for herself, which I think is great because change cannot happen outside of a state of awareness. This is why your denial becomes your number one enemy. It's not the other person. It's not your boss. It's not life. It's not the Lord. It's your lack of awareness. And we all have the responsibility to be in a state of awareness because change cannot happen outside of a state of awareness. This woman has come into a state of awareness. And while it may hurt, right? This loving and kind of tough, courageous conversations that she's having with her girlfriends about her predisposition to falling in love, she's at a place where she wants to change it. And I think that's beautiful. Joseph says, I've met people who love to fall in love, but aren't really in love. They just love that feeling. I don't know if someone can consistently fall in love over and over. I believe you may have a caring heart, but not in love. If you can, that would scare me, and that would scare me as well. And you bring up a really good point that it's not necessarily that they're falling in love, but they're just in love with feeling in love. And that is going right into my notes. Thank you so much for your feedback. The rest of my consultation team, please let me know who you are, where you are tuning in from, and don't forget to leave your feedback. Each one, teach one. That's what this show is about. So here we go. There is actually a psychologist from the University of Nevada by the name of Dan Jones, who coined the term emophilia, right? That's Emphilia. I hope I spelled that right. Emophilia. And so individuals with hemophilia, and I'm going to try to capture as many characteristics as I possibly can. Don't forget to share your feedback as I share. Okay, so individuals with hemophilia they feel romantic connections almost immediately with others. They tend to jump into relationships very quickly. They do not spend too much time single. Please let me know who you are, where you are tuning in from. I'm trying to keep up with all the different screens that are up here on my beautiful and very old and hanging on by one string laptop. So again, individuals with hemophilia do not spend much time single. They fall in love very quickly. They feel romantic connections almost immediately. They find that being single is very aversive. And as a result, they jump into relationships very quickly after heartbreak just to press replay on that cycle. So after heartbreak, they press that replay button and end up in another relationship. It's almost one after another. They don't necessarily make much required to be with them. Let me say that again. They don't necessarily make much required to be with them. And I always ask this when I am working with couples or when I'm working with singles who are having issues in their relationships. I ask, what is it that you make required? What do you make required for or to your boyfriend? What do you make required for your girlfriend? What is required for her to be with you? What is required for him to be with you? You know what that is? That's healthy. It's called boundaries. And there is no healthy relationship without them. We should be able to very quickly say in our relationships, what are our non-negotiables? What are our boundaries? What is required to be with me? And then we have then the responsibility to make sure that we enforce those requirements with immediacy, consistency, and assertively. And sometimes aggressively, depending on the situation. I'm not talking about physical aggression, but with passion, because you are worth it and you are valuable. You are a queen, you are a king, and someone that cannot meet your expectations, individuals who cannot respect your boundaries, those who do not find your non-negotiables important, that is a sign that you should run in the other direction. So individuals with hemophilia, the ones who fall in love with love, they do not necessarily make much required to be with them. They have increased chances of ending up in very toxic relationships as a result. Why? Because the feeling, that falling in love feeling, that euphoria that they experience, it literally blocks their ability to observe and act on red flags. So that dopamine rush and all the other hormonal experiences that they have as a result of falling in love, or what they perceive as love, right? This distorted view of what love is, it causes them to not necessarily engage in consequential thinking or any type of thinking that would cause them to be able to see the red flags. So often they end up in toxic relationships. Individuals with euphoria tend to attract individuals that have dark personality traits, and often end up in relationships where they are dominant, where they are abusive, where they are narcissistic, and I can go on and on. So these individuals with hemophilia, these are individuals that love the feeling of falling in love. So great job, Joseph. You hit the nail on the head. So it's not necessarily that they are in love, but they fall in love with the feeling. Men and women with hemophilia allow their invited feelings of being in love to intercept their judgment, right? We talked about judgment, consequential thinking, honoring yourself. What are you making required? So this is often manifested in engaging in unprotected sexual relations because why? Their judgment is distorted. It's like they're being overwhelmed by these feelings of euphoria that most of us have experienced at least one time in our life when it comes to being in love. These individuals have little to no focus on what they need prior to falling in love. Let me say that again. It's not that they don't have the needs. They have the needs, but there's very little focus on those needs because of this desire and this push to be in love. Everything else is secondary. The fact that you are willing to leave your job and travel all the way across the world for this man or for this woman. What about your children that are in the States and you're ready to cross the pond because of this person that you met online, right? It is literally a disruption of a person's judgment. And that feeling and the things that are needed to nurture those feelings become a priority over and above their core emotional needs. So again, these individuals have little to no focus on what they need prior to falling in love. Therefore, they don't make anything required. It's very important for me to bring up here attachment styles. And there was a time when I did a show and I actually sent out the link for individuals to take a quiz. It's a very quick online quiz where you can determine what your attachment style is. This is very important in dealing with couples. Huge, because just as I know most of us have heard of love languages, it's also important to understand the attachment style that you have and the attachment style or attachment styles of the people that you love. And so there are four main attachment styles. The first one is secure, right? That's the very first attachment style. That's the most healthy attachment style. You're secure, you're confident, there are boundaries, I'm clear on my expectations, I enforce that, right? That's a secure attachment style. There's dismissive and avoidant, right? That is their attachment style. It makes it very, very difficult to be with someone who's dismissive and avoidant. A lot of the times, the dismissive and avoidant person is attracting another attachment style that I'm going to go over last. The third one is fearful and avoidant. You know, love is not safe. I try to avoid it with a 10-foot pole. And when I'm in it, I'm constantly in fear of what will happen because of whatever emotional injury, associations that I have made, past trauma or hurt, whatever it is. Fearful and avoidant is an attachment style. It can also go back to our experiences as children and how our parents nurtured us, how our caregivers nurtured us. A lot of the times, the way that they showed love, the way that they showed care, the way that they nurtured us or did not have a lot to do, often has a lot to do with the attachment styles we bring to relationships. The fourth attachment style is anxious and preoccupied. These are individuals who are often in fear of abandonment. These are individuals who are working overtime to please. Guess what anxious and preoccupied attachment styles often attract? The dismissive and the avoidant attachment style. So it creates this huge circle and cycle that is completely dysfunctional and very injuring. So individuals with hemophilia tend to have an anxious and preoccupied attachment style that keeps the pattern going. Why does this happen? Why does this happen? Is the next. Thank you so much for tuning into the Ask Schellie Show. Those who are tuning in, we are talking about a woman who is declaring that she falls in love too quickly and she wants to break the pattern. So again, we're talking about why does this happen? And there are a lot of theories as to why this happens, but I want to focus on just a couple. There has been a high that the brain has become addicted to, right? We're talking about an emotional high. So we've talked about certain types of highs and things that cause us to have a burst of hormone releases, like when you're gambling, when you are on the Hulk at an amusement park. What's the park? Islands of Adventure. When you're on this crazy roller coaster at Busch Gardens and your heart is pumping and you're screaming and it's great. And while you're doing all this, there is a hormonal reaction happening. And this high that your brain is experiencing will cause you to want to have that feeling again and again and again. Have you ever felt like, why in the world am I getting on this roller coaster again? Right? So that happens with addiction. It happens all types of addictions. I just named gambling just as an example, but it also includes love addiction, right? So there is a high that the brain has become addicted to. So it creates this scenario of love. So individuals will really manipulate, right? They will manipulate the situation, right? Create this scenario of love to feel this burst of emotions, which is often rooted or not rooted in reality or longevity. Let me say it again. They create this scenario of love in their brains, right? Right? To feel this burst of emotions that they love so much, which is often not rooted in reality or longevity. So the need for this feeling to include those hormonal releases that happen from being perceivably accepted and desired and loved, the production and possibly overproduction of dopamine, for an example, it promotes impulsivity in decision making and a lack of functional thought processing. So here you are in this love relationship, making the same mistakes you did in the last relationship, making the same mistakes that you made 3 relationships ago. Most of the time, people who are stuck in these love in this love cycle, or in this pattern of falling in love very quickly, if you really give them an opportunity to sit down and assess their past 3 to 5 relationships, they will almost always find patterns in their decision making. It can also be considered a developmental delay. Okay, hear me out. I did a show sometime last year, and it was about how adolescents experience love and sex in a very intense way. Do you guys remember that? Those of you who have been my long timers have been following for a while. So it is because their brain development causes them to experience emotions such as love, hate, and even highs from illicit substances or any other mood altering substance. So again, we are talking about how adolescents, young teenagers, or any teen, and how they experience certain emotions, right? And so in that show, we learned that their brain development causes them to experience certain emotions such as love and hate, and even highs from illicit substances or any other mood altering substance in an unspeakable and unexplainable extreme way. Have you ever heard a teen say, I can't live without him, or I can't live without her, I will die. I will just die. Or remember when you were there yourself? Hello, right? I've been there. Have I been there all by myself? Right? Adolescents experience again love and hate and even sexual gratification, highs from mood altering substances. They experience this in a very extreme way. But for most of us, we grew and we matured out of that, while individuals with hemophilia did not. And there are many reasons for why they did not maneuver through the normal stages of emotional development. And that's different for everybody. And that is when it becomes difficult to respond to these types of questions, because we don't know her story. But some of the reasons, just in general, for what could have possibly disrupted this normal cycle of maturation, where someone is literally developmentally stuck in this same space where we talked about, where your brain is experiencing certain emotions in a really, really extreme way. Abuse, a very poor self-concept, which is usually attached to a history of trauma and brain injury, just to name a few. So our writer wants to know, how can I break this pattern? How can she break this pattern? Share your comments, share your thoughts in the comment section. You made a huge first step, Queen. You recognized it and you identified it as something that needs to change. And as a psychotherapist and any other psychotherapist who's watching right now, there are people in therapy for months and months before even arriving at a state of awareness. And you're there, right? I am not sure if you are in a relationship right now. Assuming you are not, I would encourage you to commit to being single until you are able to receive the therapy that you need to expose the root of your pattern, right? We have problems and we have patterns, right? And so, again, I would recommend that you commit to being single until you are able to receive the necessary therapy to expose the root of your pattern. Like the why for you behind your emophilia. This is what therapy can do. And that is what emotional intelligence is all about, right? It's about learning, right? Like you literally learning about yourself as if you are your own case study. That is so important. When I started to really reflect on my life and the unfavorable life outcomes that I was attracting, I became my own case study. I wanted to learn why I thought the way that I thought, why I loved the way that I loved, why I processed the way that I processed. And each and every person within the sound of that my voice, each and every person within the sound of my voice has the right to know, because there's no freedom outside of that knowledge. There's no freedom outside of that space. I know why I've had a dismissive and avoidant attachment style. I know. I know where I learned it. It was learned behavior. I know exactly who was the source of that learned behavior, and I know how to reframe it and combat it when it starts to show up. And each and every person has the right to be emotionally intelligent so you can live your life in a way that you are attracting life outcomes you deserve. So that is what emotional intelligence is about, knowing better and then doing better. A skilled therapist, Queen, will be able to help you, right? She will be able to teach you very practical skills. We call them replacement thoughts and replacement behaviors, right? So you have a certain thought process that continues to promote and fuel and feed into these behavioral processes. And we need to intercept and reframe those thought processes so we can see modification in your behavioral patterns. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy. And there may be other ways that a therapist assesses or other theoretical perspectives that a therapist may subscribe to, and that's fine too, right? But you want a therapist that is skilled and experienced and anointed to do the work. That way you can discover the root of these patterns and you can learn how to practically reframe your thoughts, how to practically modify those behavioral patterns and set yourself free. Nobody wants to be or should want to be a liability in a relationship. Everybody should be an asset in their relationship. And the more emotional injury that we have not been intentional about healing from, the more of a liability you are. We deserve it to ourselves and to our partners to be assets in those relationships. And so it is important for you to understand and be aware that I am not healthy enough to be in another relationship. It's not fair to me and it's not fair to anybody else. And I'm speaking to everybody now within the sound of my voice. Have you ever been to like an exercise workout class, right? And then the instructor will tell you, if you have any issues, right? If you have any issues or if you have any back problems or whatever, you can do this instead of this. Like if this is too intense for you, you can modify it and do this. And that is because these instructors recognize that there are people that are not healthy enough to do the work, right? They're just not healthy enough. And so this applies to each and every one of us. There are people, even here, listening and tuning in or catching the replay, that are just not healthy enough to be on social media. You're not healthy enough. You have the comparison complex. Your self-esteem is bruised. It's going to cause you to not move forward in the things that God has for you to do, right? You're not healthy enough to be on social media. There are some of us that are not healthy enough to be in a relationship. And guess what? It's okay, because there is an answer. You can get healthy so that you can show up healthy in your relationships and show up healthy on your work, in your job setting, that you can show up healthy in your career. You can show up healthy in your religious practices. You can show up healthy in your purpose. You can show up healthy as a mother. You can show up healthy as a father. You can show up healthy as a sibling. You can show up healthy as a leader. We have to learn we have to learn how to assess how truly healthy or lack thereof we are to fulfill the roles that we desire to fulfill. And so, Queen, I'm telling you, it doesn't sound like you are healthy enough to be in a relationship right now. So you owe it to yourself to get therapy, to get the help that you need to become healthy. I also want to say, because I have accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, I have to say this, and I cannot close without mentioning. In that relationship, I have learned that intimacy has caused a lot of my emotional injury to be addressed and overcome. And that is because we were created. So think about this. We were created with certain appetites. We were created for an appetite for water. And so, because we were created with that appetite, without water, we would surely die. We were created with an appetite for food. And so, if we do not feed ourselves, we will surely die. We were created to need to be in the presence of God. We were created with that appetite for God. We were created with the appetite for God's word. So a lot of the times what happens when we are experiencing an emptiness or we are experiencing unfavorable outcomes, it is because we are not attending to the appetites that we have for the presence of God and his word. And so I'm encouraging everybody who feels like I can't just put my finger on it. Most of the time, it is because there is a hunger, there is a desperation for the presence of God and his word. Why? Because we were all created with that appetite. And so because you have not intentionally fed that appetite, you are walking around near spiritual death. And so I want to put that out there for my listeners, because for many of us, the answer is in God's presence. All right. So let me go to our comments. Hello, 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 everybody. Awesome. Alethea, hello. Thank you so much, Alethea, for tuning in from Hotlanta. Do they still call it that? I've been in Georgia 3 times this month. 3 times. I'm like, Lord, what is it that you are telling me? Joseph says that's very true. They are lenient on their needs until it's too late. They see issues and things they never realized while in the Emophilia zone, if that's a thing. And it is. That is when that mindset is in full-blown effect. It's in the driver's seat. It is driving at 100 miles an hour. And you know what? I want to say this too. We all have to get to a point where we're super clear and aware about the areas in our life that require more attention. And in that awareness, we have to make sure that we are responsive to that awareness, right? So you can be informed of certain things, right? You can be informed. So your emotional intelligence may inform you of things that may have been in your blind spot. But it's important to not only be informed, but to also be responsive. So if you realize that you have a weakness for women and you have come to that realization, that awareness, and you understand the why, now you are informed. But there's another step to it. You now have to operate in life in a responsive way, responsive to what you are now aware of. And this is where we fall short. It's okay that you know, well, I know my issues. I know where my issues come from. Yes, but the fact that we're in this argument, it's clear that you're not being responsive to that knowledge. So it's about being informed and also responsive. It's about being aware and responsive. It's a shame that you're telling me that I'm aware of my attitude. I know where that comes from. I know where, this and that. I know I'm spoiled, but you're not being responsive. So if you're not being responsive to that awareness, there's no way for you to move forward in life. So what does that look like? What does that look like to be responsive? That means when that man whistles at you or pulls you aside and you're starting to feel all googly at this lounge or club or at the grocery store, I'm just using a feminine example, I'm not stereotyping, that you're able to, in your awareness, be responsive and say, wow, that was so, I'm thinking of a word that you can say, I'm flattered, but I am not interested. Even when you are. Because in your responsiveness, you understand that feeling flattered and feeling good about it is coming from a place of injury, wounds, and for some of us, even a level of brokenness. And so in your responsiveness, you understand that you are unable to engage. So it's about being aware and responsive. What are your exit plans? What are your strategic plans? If you are aware that you have an issue with managing your finances, then when you decide that, you know what, I think I can afford to eat out today. I think I can afford to go get a couple of outfits. In your responsiveness, you understand that you cannot trust that desire. And it's okay. Because you understand that you are under construction. You're under construction. How many people are allowed to enter buildings that are under construction? It becomes a danger to those who enter it. It's okay to say to yourself, I am now under construction. So there is no entry points until the building is completed and whole. What are you doing to be responsive to the things that you are aware of? What are you doing to be responsive to that which you are aware of? It's awesome to be informed, but it's important to be responsive. Giselle, hello, Nicole. I love you, sis. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ask Schellie Show. She writes, awareness and responsiveness to said awareness. Yes. Isn't that important? It's so, so cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's for people, they're ideal and work with women who have experienced significant levels of trauma. And I work in training many individuals who provide care to those individuals who have experienced trauma. And there is a modality, it's called trauma informed. This basically means that you understand the unique needs of individuals who have experienced trauma. You understand it, you've been informed, you've been educated. But I am not always looking for people who are trauma informed. I'm looking for people who are trauma informed and also trauma responsive, that you understand the words to use, the tone to use, the timing in which to use it, how to comfort people, right? It's about being informed and responsive. We have way too many people that declare awareness, but if you're not walking in that awareness and being your number one security guard, you're guarding your eye gates, guarding your ear gates. That's being responsive. That means you have a strategic plan to work against your addiction, right? So you have a plan. You know how to guard your eye gates, guard your ear gates. Make sure that you are not going in spaces and places that increases the chances that you will be hit on when you are under what? Construction. Thank you so much, Beverly, again for tuning in. Another amazing therapist. She says empowering information. Thank you, Queen. I love it. Guys, for those of you who are tuning in, be sure to click share, share, share. I always say this is about new information. I don't know how many of you even knew that there was such a thing as hemophilia, but now you know. Go ahead and click share, share, share. You never know whose line of sight or within whose earshot that this replay will land in. And so if you felt that this was valuable, make sure you click share, share, share. Let your friends and family know about the Ask Schellie Show. Tell them to take a trip over to my page and click like, and they will get all of the updates from when I go live. And for those of you who are tuning in, you can also go over to my YouTube page. My YouTube channel, excuse me. And on my YouTube channel, you will have access to all of my lives in the past year and a half now. So subscribe to Ask Schellie on my YouTube page. For those of you who are feeling like, I think I need some more assessments. I have an assessment for married couples and exclusively dating partners. And this assessment helps them to kind of take a look at their union, and it shows them whether or not they end up in three types of zone. Red zone, which is like danger, danger, danger. You need help right now. Yellow zone is caution zone. We may need to slow down on some things and really attend and dig into certain things. And then there's green zone, that you guys are thriving in your relationship. Your unity is great. Your intimacy is amazing. I also have one for singles. And in this assessment, it measures your readiness for relationships. It's a very small investment. All you need to do is go to www.askschellie.com and you can send a message to send you the assessment. Again, it's an assessment for singles, and it exposes your readiness level for a relationship. And you can get that at www.askschellie.com. You can also book me at www.askschellie.com for your conference, for your event. If you need a keynote, you can go ahead and book me there at www.askschellie.com. You can also email us directly if you have a question that you want to be highlighted on a future Ask Schellie show. You can submit those questions to info@askschellie.com. You can also submit those questions on my website, www.askschellie.com. And for those of you who are looking for more individual support or group support, you can email again at info@askschellie.com, or again, you can simply go to my website, www.askschellie.com. We have another comment from Joseph. Joseph, you have to come on stage with me. All of you guys need to come on stage with me one of these days. Again, you can keep your cameras off. I love when people come on stage with me and share your feedback. Joseph says, that's one of the worst things in my opinion. You know what the problem is, but don't want to solve it or just are okay with it. Knowledge is supposed to help you grow. Key word there was supposed to help you grow. That's like going to college for years and deciding you don't want a degree. Let's go. Come on, Joseph. That's so true. But guess what? It happens all the time. Have you ever heard someone say, well, I know I'm spoiled, but you know what? People are going to have people who love me. Just why? Why we got to deal with it, right? You got to be informed and responsive. Hello, Lisa Stone from Kissimmee. Hey, oh my God, I'm late, but we'll watch the replay and comment. Thank you so much. We were talking about a woman who claims that she is always in love and she wants to break the pattern. So make sure you watch the replay and let us know what you think. To my consultation team, thank you so much for tuning in to the Ask Schellie Show. I sure hope that this was a treat for you. Our goal is to always leave our listeners with extra tools to add to their wellness toolbox. If you cannot take dominion over your emotions, you will not be able to take dominion in the earth. And God gives us all that charge to take dominion in the earth, walk in authority. So take this time, this last quarter of 2021, and do what you need to do to assure that you are entering 2022 differently, doing it differently, thinking different, perceiving different, responding different, right? So you can do that. You can go ahead and put that sign up under construction from now to the end of this year so you can assure that when you enter 2022, you're entering in full throttle mode. You deserve it. You deserve it. We deserve to be at peak performance in our emotions. We have to remember this last thing. Each and every one of us has the capacity to influence favorable outcomes in the earth. We all also have the same capacity to influence unfavorable outcomes in the earth. The choice is yours. God bless you.